Every character, location, or experience you've read about in my crime fiction novels holds a piece of reality. I'm Helen Taylor. Welcome to the story behind my stories, the video podcast where crime fiction meets my authentic experience. Here, we delve into the real-life inspirations and intimate stories that shaped my novels. Discover how my everyday encounters, adventures, and travels translate into tales as gripping as they are genuine. The story behind my stories goes behind the words on the page to reveal the backstory that inspires my writing. Hit follow or subscribe and ensure you're part of this journey. Hi everybody. So this is episode 7 of Aloha Goodbye, or the story behind Aloha Goodbye. Last week we talked about Maui and Krispy Kreme and all the donuts there. This week we're going to talk about Honolulu. And this is going to go over 2 episodes because I'd like to do an episode about war memorials, which I'm going to leave for next week. So this week we're going to do Honolulu as a whole, and then next week would be more Pearl Harbor and potentially other war memorials. So Honolulu is the island that everybody thinks of as Hawaii. Everybody knows as Hawaii. And like I said 2 weeks ago on the Hilo one, it is the one that everybody thinks is the big island. Except it's not. That's Hilo. But Honolulu is, if you like, the famous one, and mainly for not just Pearl Harbor but Waikiki Beach. That's Hawaii as we know it, as in people probably outside the US. So I'm going to start with, tomorrow was Honolulu, and Goodwin was looking forward to it immensely. Pearl Harbor had been somewhere he'd always wanted to go, Jane too. So, as you know from previous episodes, I went to Hawaii on the cruise with Lauren, my daughter. We really wanted to, or I really wanted to go to Pearl Harbor, and Lauren was interested and wanted to too, but we both also wanted to do the city tour because I wanted us to go to Waikiki Beach because it's mentioned in films, it's used in films and adverts and books, and it's where everyone's heard of Waikiki Beach. But when I was a kid, I watched Hawaii 5-0, and as I think I mentioned earlier in this podcast, they've done the remake of Hawaii 5-0, which I introduced Lauren to, and it was part of the inspiration of wanting to go to Hawaii for Lauren and for me, along with the whole Kona and triathlon Ironman stuff. So we really wanted to see things from Hawaii 5-0 as well. So we did the city tour, and that's the extract that I'm going to read you. We did the city tour and Pearl Harbor, so you had a city tour, went to a few locations around the city and on the way to Pearl Harbor, and then left at Pearl Harbor. So today I'm going to read you the extracts and talk about the city tour bit, and then the Waikiki Beach, which we did in the afternoon bit, before leave Pearl Harbor for next week, when we will cover Pearl Harbor along with other memorial type places that I've been. Okay, so this is an extract from chapter 32. Again, I'm going to have to skip bits. Bit of poetic license here, not to give too much away, as we're getting close to the end. Goodwin had returned to the stateroom and found Jane all ready and prepared for the day's tour. They headed to the buffet and got some breakfast, as they still had an hour before their tour, but they were both so excited to be visiting Pearl Harbor today. Collecting their day bags after applying suntan lotion for the heat out there, they left their stateroom to see Simon leaving his too. Conversation in the lift on the way to the vehicle was minimal. Simon was his normal, entitled self, short answers and non-committal when he did deign to communicate. The officer who was with him, who Goodwin knew, said very little, ensuring Simon felt the one in charge and not dismissed, being in a wheelchair. If you remember back, Simon was the one who had the debilitating arthritic long-term illness. After security, they headed toward the tour vehicles and collected their numbered and coloured stickers for their tour. There were multiple excursions heading to Pearl Harbor and a few going elsewhere. There was also a definite stream of people on foot leaving the ship and port under their own steam, as Goodwin and Jane intended to do this afternoon to head to Waikiki Beach. Their excursion bus was idling just outside the cruise terminal, its doors open to welcome them. A warm breeze carried the scent of the salty sea through the air. They climbed on board, taking their seats as the few last guests settled into their seats. Goodwin noticed the three suspects on this excursion as he'd walked up the aisle, and they'd grabbed a pair of seats immediately behind Wentworth and Cecile. The doors hissed shut. The coach moved off as a cheerful voice came through the speakers on board. "Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Honolulu. My name is Malia, and I will be your guide today. I was born and raised right here on Oahu. Sorry. And I can't wait to show you around my home. We're going to explore some of the most beautiful and historic places on the island, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride." She paused, scanning the group with a bright smile. "Before we get started, where is everyone visiting from?" Remember, I told you on Hilo, they always ask that. A few voices called out, "California, Texas, Australia, Japan." Malaya nodded enthusiastically. "I do love hearing where you have all come from, and thank you for making the journey to Hawaii. We've got a great mix today. Whether you've been here before or this is your first time, I promise you'll see Honolulu in a whole new way." As the bus pulled out of the port, she gestured toward the towering volcano cone in the distance to her right. "That's Diamond Head Crater, one of our most famous landmarks. It was formed over 300,000 years ago during a single volcanic eruption. Today, it's a popular hiking spot, offering panoramic views of Waikiki and the Pacific Ocean, a different aspect than you saw on your sail in here. Speaking of Waikiki, did you know that over 4.5 million visitors come to Waikiki Beach every year? It's one of the most famous beaches in the world. First, we are going to head up towards Pali Lookout so you can see the lush green slopes ahead. That's where we're going. Now, I don't tend to return to places that I've been unless something really grabs me that I want to go back for. Obviously, Thailand, I was going to set up a business, so went back there. And then there's a little place in Menorca that I've been back to twice, and obviously Crete, but Crete's a little bit different. But if I was to ever go back to Hawaii on another cruise or to stay, then I would like to hike up Diamond Head Crater. I would have liked to have done that. I'd had to do it on my own, as Lauren's not able to do that. But also we just didn't have time in the one day that we were there in Honolulu to do Pearl Harbor, the city tour, to see some bits, Waikiki Beach, and hike up Diamond Head Crater. So if I was ever to go back, that is what I would do there, having done the rest on this trip. A short while later, as they arrived, Malaya continued, "This is you'll have to bear with me on the pronunciation of some of this. This is Nuuana Pali Lookout. It's not just a stunning viewpoint, it's also the site of a historic battle in 1795, when King Kamehameha the first united the Hawaiian Islands. The winds here can be fierce, so hold on to your hats." They all filed off the coach and stepped out into the crisp mountain air, already warming up, and were greeted by sweeping views of the windward coast of Oahu. A gust of wind rushed through, causing a few of them to laugh as they kept hold of their hats and sunglasses. After a few photos, they all climbed back on the bus, which descended toward the heart of Honolulu, as Malaya talked about what they could see and some anecdotes of her time growing up here. So, I just completely forgotten what I was going to say then. If you are watching this on video and you've watched the intro, then again you will see photos of both Pearl Harbor and the Pali Lookout and Waikiki Beach. There are photos from the other islands. There's Krispy Kreme and there's the black sand beaches and whatever, but all of those from Honolulu are in that intro as well. My own photos from when we were there. As they approached the Aloha Palace, the driver slowed right down to drive past. "This is the only royal palace in the United States," Malaya says. "It was home to Hawaii's last reigning monarchs, King Kalakaua and Queen Liliuokalani. The palace was ahead of its time. It had electricity even before the White House." I do apologise to anybody who might know the pronunciation of these for my poor pronunciation. I'm really sorry about that. One of the passengers up front raised a hand. "Was this the palace in Hawaii 5-0? Malaya grinned. "That's a great question and one I'm always asked. While the palace itself wasn't used as the headquarters in the original series, the building next to it, Ali Ialani Hali, was. That's where the famous King Kamehameha statue stands. If you're a fan of the show, you'll recognise a lot of places around Honolulu. And that was exactly what we went for on this particular trip, to be able to see and recognise places from Hawaii Five-0, like she says. The tour continued and Malaya explained that they would drive into and around the Punch Bowl National Cemetery, but would not be stopping or alighting at all. This is the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in an extinct volcanic crater. I am going to cover that off next week as part of the memorial. And the bit about the drive and what she talks about to Pearl Harbor in next week's episode. And so then that is all quite key in the book, the actual Pearl Harbor thing. So I'm not going to read that to you. So yes, I don't want to cover that in here. So they do Pearl Harbor. They go back to the ship, as myself and Lauren did when we were there, and then we headed out and got the bus, a bit like we did in Maui, to Waikiki Beach, and Jane and Goodwin do that in here. So I'll read you that extract. 30 minutes later, Goodwin and Jane walked through security to find Cecile and Wentworth waiting at the bottom of the ramp. While Goodwin and Jane were still in shorts and t-shirts, albeit fresh ones, for an afternoon in the sun, Cecile was definitely dressed for an afternoon of shopping. They walked out of the port to the bus stop Jane had pointed out earlier, and caught the next bus that took them along the coast road toward Diamond Head Crater and into the town bordered by Waikiki Beach. Once there, they headed straight to the beach, a sea of tanned bodies, bright bikinis, sun loungers, parasols, and sea as far as the eye could see. Restaurants all along the front. They took a seat in one and had some lunch, enjoying Mai Tais and pina coladas in the sun, with some very high class and incredibly tasty Hawaiian-style burgers. Then there's a key bit. After lunch, Wentworth, Goodwin and Jane convinced Cecile that a walk along the beach and to absorb the atmosphere of Waikiki Beach was in order, before strolling around the shops that were no different to their counterparts in Los Angeles, New York or London. The beach was crowded. Crossing the main road to get to the beach, they dodged the Ferraris, Lamborghinis and Porsches driving up and down, showing off their wealth. There was no chance that anything you purchased here wasn't going to be up there with the most expensive. So, I have to say, Waikiki Beach, I don't know what I was expecting, as it's a beach. I guess in my head I had some other expectation of it. So I was a little disappointed. It was a beach. It was a lovely sand beach, and it wasn't massively overcrowded when we were there. I say not massively overcrowded. You would be sitting very close to somebody if you chose to go and sit on the beach. But I suppose it other than lots of sun loungers and people just sitting on the beach like I see here in Crete or previously in Spain or anywhere else, there was a lot more activity going on the beach. Maybe closer to sort of Thailand. People had surfboards, body surfing. It was maybe a more active beach than a lounging beach. But there was a lot of posing. That's the word I'm looking for. Posing on the beach, going on, as there was on the road. I mean, where we got off the bus and walked around the town a bit and then walked down to the beach. There's a long road in front of the beach. The other side is the beach. There's posing on the beach, and then it was almost like it came to a roundabout. You can turn around and you had to go back again on the road. And yeah, there were Lamborghinis, Porsches, all the posh cars driving up, round and back again, and pumping the accelerators and making lots of revving sounds and things like that, blaring loud music, very much a look at me and my nice car, which was like what I expected, and then it had Rolex, it had Tesla, it had Ralph Lauren, it had all the big stores that are London, New York, Waikiki. And we weren't going to be buying anything or doing any expensive shopping there, but there was a Pandora, and we did go into a Pandora, because Lauren has a Pandora bracelet, and asked if there was anything specific to Hawaii, and we've got a little turtle charm, because Lauren loves turtles, and we'd seen turtles that morning at Pearl Harbor, funnily enough, and so yeah, we bought a turtle Pandora charm from Pandora Waikiki, and then wandered along the coast road for a little bit and hopped on the bus back to the ship, as did Goodwin and Jane. So that's the end of this episode, and next week I am going to do be maybe a bit more of an emotional episode, as it will be talking about Pearl Harbor, but I'd like to bring in other memorials that I've visited in the world and talk a little bit about that. So I will catch you next week. Enjoy your week, and please do follow, subscribe, like the episode, whichever platform you are watching or listening to it on, and do head over to my website, sign up for my newsletter. You will get exclusive content, competitions, and opportunities to get involved in my books. I've just missed one actually, which was the naming of the new Argentina book, which is set on a cattle drive across Argentina, which was my experience last year. So tune in next week, and bring the tissues next week. I will have them. And I will catch you next week. Have a good week. Bye.